Welcome, zombie fans, to this week's episode of Reanimated. I'm H.A. Conrad, here with my intrepid co-host, Stuart Stefan. Hello, Stuart.
Good day, HA.
I just have to mention before we get started, this episode, like all of our episodes, is sponsored by our friends at Squarespace. Squarespace builds it beautiful. You can create your own website using their tools, customize it, make it amazing. It's pretty easy to use, and we use it here at Reanimated, and we love the Squarespace stuff. And if you haven't yet used Squarespace, they've given us an offer code for our fans. Throw in zombie into the little cart, not case sensitive, and you'll get 10% off your first purchase. So today we've got our usual little zombie news tidbits, and then we are also reviewing the film A Little Bit Zombie, which came out in 2012. So why don't you kick off the news sequence, Stuart? Go for it.
It's a little scarier when you call it a news sequence. But
I know.
yes, the news. So a man in Tennessee was ordered to remove by his homeowners association, remove a zombie statue from his front yard. Apparently it had been there for a long time, like years. And
Like
then
years.
suddenly he gets a note after a recent inspection of the community on April 19th that the zombie in your yard needs to be
I know.
removed.
I kind of think that he should frame this letter and just put it up because it's amazing. And the statue that they're talking about is one, I'm sure you've seen it online, Stuart. Have you? Like, I saw this all over the place.
Yeah, like in Sky Mall.
Right. It's just there, and it's just sort of this zombie figure clawing its way out of the ground. It's just silly and stupid, and to me, it seems kind of crazy that they're making a big deal out of it. But apparently, the community feels like this is not up to their standards. And I do like that they affectionately call this little guy Claude, like clawed out of the ground. But we'll keep you up to date on this fraught legal case as it unfolds. What do you think? Do you think he'll win out, or do you think they'll make him remove it?
I think homeowners associations have bylaws and you've signed contracts, right? For to live in those neighborhoods, so you know what you're getting into.
Maybe. I think he has to win some of the other homeowners over to his side, and then he might win out. We'll see. If he gets the public the public on his side, maybe they'll back down.
I think all you need is one jerk store on the board and you're out of business.
Maybe, but you know what? Those little garden gnomes, I guarantee you there's some of those in the community, and I say that he's going to fight fire with fire and take
Oh
pictures
yeah.
of all of them.
Yeah, that would work.
Yeah. So, and next up, there was this weird little article in the New York Times about Emily Kinney, who other people know as Beth from The Walking Dead, and just talking about her new, like what she's been doing post show. And, before she was on Walking Dead, she was on Broadway in a musical called Spring Awakening, who I think a lot of people know a few of the folks from that show. Leah Michelle, who went on to what is the name of the thing? Do you remember?
I've never heard of her.
Leah Michelle. She's in the musical.
Hamilton.
No, no,
It's the only one
no.
I've heard of. That's the only one I even know that's on Broadway right now.
The I'm the sorry, the musical television drama Glee. So she
Oh,
was one of the main people from that. And then, Jonathan Groff, who is now in Hamilton. There's just tons of people that have come out of that particular show, and Elizabeth Kenney, luckily for her, went on to do Walking Dead, and so she's kind of continuing that career. And it's interesting because every time they had her sing on that show, I was like, they're setting her up for something later on, or they're gonna market this later, which they have, and so she seems to be doing pretty well. I did think it was really funny that people still send her like zombie care packages, which are all around her apartment. So that was kind of funny.
did you get some sort of vibe that this was a sad story about Emily Kinney?
I mean, I feel like it's a little bit sad because it's just kind of like it's over, and so she's just kind of like trying to release her albums, and it doesn't really seem like she's doing all that much in the way of film, or so I don't know. To me it felt a little sad, but maybe not for her as much. I don't know. What was your take?
I hadn't really. Yeah, I guess the article is pretty neutral. It's just, yeah, she's talking about her music and where she lives, and I don't picture her as a New Yorker.
Yeah, me neither. But you never know. New Yorkers are all types.
And did you listen to her any of her music? I watched one of her videos when it came out shortly after she left the show.
Yeah, I've not really listened to a lot of her music.
I've only looked at that one, and it was kind of as they describe it here, light country pop. It's you know
It's
well
kind of what I would
executed.
have expected it to be, honestly. So, not
Yeah,
really my thing, but
yeah,
I prefer her doing Tom Waits covers myself.
yeah. Right. So she's working on her next album, album number three, and she's doing concerts, and I bet she's doing still a lot of Comic Con type stuff, or at least I would assume there's still
Yeah,
probably a demand for her to do that kind of stuff.
I think so. But we'll see. Hopefully, she'll get cast in something else because I mean, it does look like she's focusing on her music, but I think she's a pretty decent actress, so I'd like to see her in more. But speaking of auditioning and acting, this little tidbit came up, and it is auditioning people to be zombie extras or zombie cast members for the attraction at Universal Studios Hollywood. That's what it is.
Okay.
It's their new Walking Dead attraction. So basically, they're calling all zombie actors, and so if you show up in your makeup and whatever, they'll rate you according to your scare ability. And apparently, there's also a height requirement. So there you go, and you can score a job at the park to be a zombie extra. So if that's your dream, go for it, and you're out on the West Coast.
And the height requirement is 5'6" to 6'5".
Yeah, I would not make this height requirement.
Wow, hardcore. Uh,
I
so
do
it,
I do also enjoy the warning that some of what you may have to do, you have to be okay with being in tight spaces so you can't be claustrophobic.
yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, it's kind of a cool listing anyway, so check it out if you get a chance. And then lastly, we got a note from Keith, who is one of our friends of the show, and he had a couple of good comments about The Walking Dead, and in response to what our comments were about season 6. And
Throughout our review of season four, we kind
right,
of talked a lot about how we were not super psyched about season six, and Keith has a different perspective on that season. Agree with it or not. So he just says it sounds like he didn't enjoy season six. I think you've really got to look at it in the context, which to me, sorry, at it in context, which to me is that it's essentially a feeder season for the Negan story, and in that respect, it worked well, at least for me anyway. You can blink, you can cry. Hell, we're all going to be doing that. Season six has happened as it happened, and you need to take it like a champ.
I just don't think that it's, I hear what he's saying, but for me, I don't think it's necessary to have an entire season be a feeder season to one
It does seem like a
storyline.
tall order. It to me, yeah, my gut instinct is to rebel against that philosophy. Just like in Interstellar, Matthew McConaughey rebels against the idea that he is part of a caretaker generation.
Right.
I like to liken
Exactly.
myself to his character in Interstellar at every chance I get.
And then one other comment that he made was about a film that he liked called Lockdown, and Lock is Loch. And so I don't know. Maybe we will take a look at that, and maybe you'll hear us review it at some point in the future. I'm always up for suggestions.
Righty, right. Moving on.
All right. So on to a little bit zombie. So this is definitely fully in the camp of campy zombie kind of comedy. It is comedy, I guess or zomedy as some people have been calling them. And this came out in 2012. It was in a few Canadian film festivals, and it actually got a few awards depending on, it was these little independent like horror film festivals. And the reason why I was interested in watching it is because Stephen McHattie is in it, who you may remember from Pontypool. It was a lot goofier than I was expecting, but I have my suspicions about what you think about it, Stuart, but I would like to hear it from you.
Yeah. Stephen McHattie. Okay, yeah, overall, I think people acted well. I think the performances were good. I think the script was funny. The dialogue was funny. The script, I think, was not good.
I think that, well, one thing I should mention about this film is that it was funded entirely by crowdsourcing. So it was over a 5 year period, people basically pledged to support this movie. So how he did this was he set up the funding so that people could buy it, like buy a frame. And so apparently he raised over $1 million doing that this way. So it was definitely a group effort to bring this into fruition.
What do you mean by a frame?
So it was sort of like they would pledge for frame by frame of the film.
Oh my God, isn't that gazillions?
It is, but I don't know that you'd actually. I think they could pledge a certain amount. Like I don't know. It was you know, not $1 a frame necessarily. So
That's cool.
yeah, so that's pretty cool. I like that this was a crowdsourced initiative. I would agree with you that the dialogue for a lot of it, like there's parts of it where it's better than others, and I definitely felt like there's a couple of reviews that mention that the pacing at the beginning is not consistent and is very slow, and I would agree with that. I admit I was struggling with this at the beginning of the film and really just kind of getting annoyed by it, and then probably maybe a quarter of the way through, maybe a little bit more than that, it finally started to get going, and it was goofy and campy, and there were some good moments. But I think that they could have done with a better like a script editor or another set of eyes on that. I think it would have gone a lot further to make this more enjoyable for me anyway.
Yeah, it didn't really. There were zero scares, which sometimes I think you need to offset the camp a little bit. There's
Right.
nothing's even remotely scary about this movie.
No, there's nothing scary. I mean, there's sort of a couple of silly, shocking moments, but you kind of feel them coming anyway. So the whole premise of this film is that Steve, who's what the main character, is a cabin in the woods film, goes up there with his fiance, his sister, and his sister's husband, and he gets bitten by a mosquito that's bitten a zombie. And so he starts to show different characteristics of the zombie, but not fully. And it was more funny and gross and not really not really scary. There's like shock moments that are thrown in there, and just gross out moments that are really silly, but definitely not a lot of money put into the effects and efforts. Like there's the effort of the film. Even it's not even Evil Dead level, you know. Even though I know you don't find Evil Dead satisfying, so but that's sort of the feeling and the flavor I was getting from this, so to speak.
Something that I just realized that is completely crazy is that the guy with the giant arms, what's his name?
The main guy, Sean Roberts.
Sean Roberts,
Yeah.
plays Eric Wesker in a few of the Resident Evil movies.
Yeah, no, he's been in quite a few things. He was in the Land of the Dead and Diary of the Dead. So you know he's been around. And then the woman who plays the actress that plays the fiance, Crystal Lowe, was in Final Destination, I think, and Smallville, and Hot Tub Time Machine. Sorry, Final Destination 3 she was in.
Final Destination.
Yeah, that one. But you know, so the two of them have been in, you know, quite a few things. The other two, not so much. And again, like I don't think these actors and actresses were terrible, and I think they're used to being in some of these campy things. So I think if the script had been worked on a little bit more, it would have been, for me, a more enjoyable film and more successful. It also felt like the quality of the film to me felt very, I mean, I think it was deliberately campy, but it just looked super cheesy. I'm trying to think of a comparable film, but I just can't. It felt much more like a homemade movie. So the production value wasn't super, super high to me.
Yeah. Obviously they didn't have a lot of sets. The blonde was in The Expanse, my favorite TV show of 2015,
Mm.
or maybe that actually some of it was in 2016. I don't remember what. There's a pretty big cast in that show. Have you seen that show, by the way?
You know what? I have not. I was going to watch it, and I just haven't gotten around to it. It's on my list, and I keep meaning to. You know what? I think I did see the first episode.
Well, hot damn. It's really good. I know I've talked about it before on this show,
Yep.
but she's in the pilot. I'm not sure exactly where her character disappeared off to or what happened to her, but yeah, I like the central foursome. I think the lead guy, for what he had to do with his facial expressions and the drooling and all this stuff, he was actually really good. I just don't think it was compelling material, but I think that he did a good job with it. If that's
No, I think he did a great job with it, and I do feel like the drooling part was some of the funnier bits in this film. So basically, every time he says brains,
the
he
first
has
6 times it
yeah,
was
like
good. Yeah.
he has just that he has like a Pavlovian reaction and just drools an insane amount. So that's kind of interesting, and I also liked the idea that he realizes that he may be a zombie and he has to go out in search of brains, and he's just a super failure at it. And so that was kind of a funny bit, but it's definitely a light little film. Would I recommend it to anybody? No. If it's silly and you're maybe having a few beers and you want to like just relax and laugh a little bit, I think that's fine. But it's not. It definitely wasn't one of my favorites. And admittedly, I was surprised at some of the really. There were some very positive reviews of it.
I don't see anything negative, but then I think that's also because not a lot of people even bothered to review this.
That could be true too. And I guess, this is one of the things with some of these crowdsourced projects and independent projects. I kind of feel like if you're going to do it, you should absolutely do it right. It should not be half assed. And I do feel like more time could have been spent with the editing and the script. And it just needed, to me, it needed a little bit of help. That's all. And there were some really great ideas in it. It just didn't, as a whole, hold up to me.
I'm not sure what need to be done to this for me to like it, other than like a complete rewrite. Or maybe
Well,
maybe I'm just over this genre of zombie movie, but I don't know. Like I feel like I almost enjoyed Scout's Guide more than I like this.
yeah, and I mean that's what I mean. Like if you're gonna do something like this, the script has to be very tight, and it wasn't here. And there was a lot of moments, even with the actors, where there's like pauses where it just feels long, which is it goes to the comments about the pacing. And even you've got Stephen McHattie, and yeah, I get that he's playing this very tropey zombie hunter character, and he is being silly and over the top, but don't waste him. And I do feel like
He
he
was
was
a
a bit
total
wasted.
waste. You're right. Actually, him and the blonde lady, Emily Ullerup, they were both kind of just throwaway, shoehorned into this story for they didn't serve enough of a purpose
No.
and met their end. And I guess what was basically amusing, especially actually when Stephen McHattie's face gets shot out and she's like, "Damn, I was aiming for his leg or whatever." I actually did
That
chuckle
was funny.
uh, because it's funny. But and then yeah, their characters kind of like enter the story. They start off the movie, but then they're essentially unnecessary for the
Right.
entire thing, which is
And I kept feeling like they were going to go back to them and there was going to be something big that they would do, and it just didn't go there. So, but again, campy and silly. I could see watching this with a group of people and getting really goofy about it. But yeah, you could be right. Maybe we're just a little bit weary of some of these campy type films. So, I think that that's probably going to wrap it up. A very short review this week. What would you like to talk about next week, Stuart?
Can I just point out that in 2012, the year this movie came out at the Louisville Fright Night Film Fest, it won a crap ton of awards.
I know. That's why I thought it would be better than it
Best
was.
feature, best zombie film, and best comedy.
Right, and you know what? I got this was recommended to me by some fellow zombie film fans, and I was really excited about it. And now I'm like, I mean, maybe you had to be in the moment, maybe at the time. If it's, you know what? As I said, like I think if you watch this with a crowd of people that were really into it and laughing at the goofiness of it, that could be a lot of fun. Similar to watching Aliens with a huge group of superfans who are just all into it.
I'm sorry, I could watch Aliens any time of
I
day,
know, I
night,
know.
alone with a
Not a
million
good
people.
comparison.
Right.
But I guess what I'm saying is that sometimes watching this kind of stuff with a crowd is a lot more fun
Yeah.
than watching it on your own with headphones on. You know what I mean? like, uh, it just is one of those campy things that should be enjoyed with a crowd. That's all.
Yeah. No, I hear you. Thank you for listening to our review, short as it might have been, about A Little Bit Zombie from 2012, Canadian film. We are going to be back next time with kind of a triple-headed hydra of a review on I Am Legend. As we occasionally do diverge from zombies to cover a little bit of vampire action, and I Am Legend is kind of the grandpappy of those stories. So we'll be talking about Omega Man. Is it Omega Man?
Yep.
Charlton Heston version? Yeah. Omega Man, I Am Legend, the book, and the film with Will Smith. And so come and check it out with us next time on Reanimated. And so for now, I'm Stuart, and I'm saying goodbye.
And I'm AJ Conrad. If you want to throw some comments our way, it's Reanimated PCast on the Twitters. Reanimatedpodcast.com is the site. Or shoot us an email like our friend Keith does at reanimatedpodcast@gmail.com. So until next time, ciao.